Oh boy. Oh, what is going on here? Hold on a second. All right. So now let's see here. All right. We are getting ready for the stream. We have absolutely nobody in here now. And I need something to clean this up. There we go. That there. Need it for this other camera. Okay. Wow, look at that. So much better. So much better. Okay, so now I'm gonna grab this guy and I'm gonna throw it over there. And we're gonna go here, and just go youtube.com. All right. So now let's see. Can I hear what I'm saying? Testing one, two, three. Testing. Hello. What's up? Just doing some pre-stream stuff right now. And then after that, um, well, here as soon as it's done, I'm gonna go ahead and play for you guys a teaser from Monday's track session. I literally threw the video together here in the last hour or so prior to going live. All right. All right. I think it's almost done. Oh, it is. It's almost done. Let's go. Let's go. All right. Okay. So now we go ahead and mute that. We know we have audio, right? And that's done. So let's check it out real quick. All right, here we go. Live stream. Videos. Aha, there it is. Sweet. All right, I'm going to throw this on real quick. All right. You guys are going to like this a lot. It's a oh. Hold on. Boom. All right, sweet. I'm going to go ahead and back out.
Okay, I love the phrase they say, direction, the umbrella of direction covers everything. I'd rather have direction than placement any day. I could be where Kevin is. If I have direction, I'm not perfect, we're gonna be okay. But if I'm here and I'm pointed that way, I got placement, but I don't have direction. I'm in a deep doo-doo, okay? So get direction, and then we can fine tune with placement. As we come across this hill, there's a couple lines. I'm not gonna get into the nuances of it, but I'm looking at reference points. You see this tree line as it comes to an end? That's one reference point. There's kind of a road in the Christmas tree farm out there. That's another one. Find something that helps pull you over this hill. Know that there's going to be a little kink left, and then it's going to kind of roll into another kink into turn 5. Just prepare for that, and again, give yourself freedom to adjust. This corner here has the most crashes at this track no matter what. Part of the problem is we don't have a lot of lefts here to get, or excuse me, a lot of rights to get the right-hand side of the tire warmed up, especially on cold mornings. So ease through here. The other problem is guys will apex turn 2 too early. It pushes them really wide, and now instead of coming up the left-hand side of the track, they're coming up the right-hand side, and they got to throw a ton of lean angle right here, and also they lose the front, or they get too greedy in the throttle, and they lose the rear. So since it's cold, there hasn't been a lot of rubber laid down, because I think there's only been one car day here. Take it easy through turn 3. Ease through this. Wait till 2 or 3 o'clock to start really getting aggressive. That's when it calls. So this is a place that can end your day bad. I don't know. I've never crashed here. Okay.
Have you really not?
I bullshit. I think 3 or 4 times.
You better knock on some wood.
Once while instructing someone. That's how embarrassing it is, you know. So I see Kevin laughing. Have you ever found this corner?
You know, so far.
Okay.
I don't want to jinx it.
Don't do it.
But I'm really careful. I want to be to the right-hand side of the track as I come across the crest. If I'm coming over here, I'm veering to the left side of the track, and I can't see the backside yet, I'm adding lean as the bike's getting light. That's bad juju. So the direction thing that Mark talked about, really be patient with the shallow exit here, so you can get the bike pointed to exit this more shallow than you think it is.
Get your turning done back here somewhere. The more you're still turning up here, the more I'm going to go meet you out at the fence over there. I've crashed here twice. It sucks. It doesn't take much to crash here. Then you just watch your bike slide away and you curse up and down for a minute.
This session, though, I lost my rear brake.
Complete.
Yep. Came off. I can swear I freaking blew Loctite and everything. But it is what it is. Checking to see if we can find. All right, we are back again for another episode from the Ducati Dads Live. And now, what we have here today is how many have you? Because I know I did this when I was a street rider. And when I started getting interested in riding the track, I started looking up different schools. And I was really questioning whether or not they were worth the time and the money to attend. So today we've got Mark Morrow from the Mark Morrow Road Racing School. And he's going to answer a lot of questions that we all have. Now, I recently got into road racing, and it's something I've always wanted to do. So if you've been following the Ducati Dads channel, main channel, we went and we did a full motorcycle race build with a Panigale V4. And then this last Monday, if you just saw the pre-show, I went to the track. And during the track day, I was able to follow one of the marshals. And after each session, him and I would talk. And he gave me pointers. Now, with a motorcycle school, it's similar to that, except for it's more in depth. You're able to ask a lot of questions. You've got an instructor that walks you through each thing. And we're going to be able to ask Mark a bunch of questions today about what he does at his school and what these schools value brings to you. All right. So here we go. We're going to bring on Mark.
Thanks for having me, Tim.
All right. There we go. How you doing, buddy?
There we go. Hey,
Yeah.
Doing good. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. So
Did you have
you
fun
said
this
you're
week?
going to Talladega. Oh, I had a lot of fun. And it sounds like you're about ready to have a lot of fun too at Talladega.
Yeah, absolutely. Talladega is where I took my race school 30 years ago, or 31 years ago. So it's always a little sentimental, heartbeat thing to go back to the track where it all started. And
right.
It's kind of funny because as racetracks go, Talladega is one of the least exciting, least fancy. It's literally just a little ribbon of pavement in the middle of some farmer's field out in the back country of Alabama. It's
Well,
not
that's
fancy.
What makes it unique.
It
gives it its charm.
It is. Yeah, it definitely is. And a lot of people give it grief. They're like, oh, there's no straightaway. I can't use my horsepower. And also it has a very, very grippy but abrasive surface that eats up tires also. And it only has 5 turns. I mean, by the numbers, there's 6 or 7, but really there's 5 turns and 4 of them are left-handers. So you spend a lot of time on the left side of the tire on a track with a grippy, abrasive pavement. It will shred some tires pretty quick. Even on little bikes, it goes through tires fast. But I love going back there. And all season long, I've been saying I'm going to miss this weekend because I misread the calendar. My daughter's wedding was last weekend. So I just like, I can't go to Talladega because my daughter's wedding. And then I realized, wait, these are 2 separate weekends. So it's like an added bonus. I wasn't planning to go to Tally, but now I get to go, so I'm all excited. So
yeah, so you get to go back
getting ready to
down memory lane, and that's where you started your school. So we'll jump right on into it. How or why did you start the school?
That's a great question. I, you know, I always had for a long time. I had this idea in the back of my head that I would like to run a school someday when I grow up. You know, kind of thing. I've always known that I'm not going to be able to race forever, so I always looked at running a school as my exit strategy, a way to keep in touch with racing and still get out there on the track and have some fun, but not necessarily be, bar to bar competition. And my mentor, the guy I took I took Ed Bargy's school back in '94, and he's still running his school. He's in his 80s, and he's still getting on his
Oh,
bike and out there and riding with the students every session. So I look at Ed like, well, if Ed's still riding at 80, then but I didn't really have a plan in place to go for a school. I always thought, someday when you get closer to the goal, it'll start becoming more obvious on how to get there.
right.
And literally just one day it kind of fell into my lap. And I'm leaving out the middle part. I coached for Ed for almost 20 years before this opportunity happened. So I was actively involved with Ed's school as one of his coaches. And he always had an open door policy. He loved when the coaches came and sat in class because we'd all be reading out of the same Bible, so to speak. So I sat in on his class quite a few times. Not, I didn't just take it that one time, when I got my license in 1994. I had sat in on his class many times and been out on the track, seeing how we handle all the sessions. But then at the end of 2019, I was racing mostly with Arma, a little bit of Weir Racing at that time, but mostly Arma, which is a heavily vintage based organization. And they put out the word went out through the paddock that their current race school coach was the race instructor was retiring. And so they're asking for people, if anybody's interested in teaching other people how to race, throw your hat in the ring and see what's up. And I threw my hat in the ring. I went to school. I was a music education major in school. My mom was a piano teacher. I've always liked teaching, and I've always been an educator at heart. And so I threw my hat in the ring, and I got the job. it was,
Oh,
it
wow.
was. I don't know that I expected I was going to get it. I hoped I would get it, but I really, there were some pretty serious people also throwing their hat in the ring, and but money had a part to do with it too. And I was coming in with a very humble, not asking for much because I just wanted the gig. So whether for whatever reason, whatever the factors were, I ended up getting the job. And then after I accepted the job, they said, "Oh, by the way, the previous guy doesn't want anybody using his curriculum, so you're gonna have to create your own curriculum too. And also, by the way, the first school is in 6 weeks, so I had to come up with a curriculum in a pretty short amount of time, but I did, and I came up with some good ideas, and I figured out that I don't want to write a book. I'm not going to sit out here and write out, "Hey, when you approach turn one, you should do this and you should do that." All of my information's right here, so I just wrote an outline of how to become a good racer, and I just put in bullet points that would be my reminders while I'm going through my class to keep me on track because I do get a little sidetracked sometimes, and and so I created this outline, and it ended up working great. I've made a lot of modifications over the years. That was 2019. It's now 2026. So the curriculum has gone through many modifications over the years, but
It's got
I
to
like to think it
evolve.
gets better and better every time. Yeah, keep on improving it. But that's sort of how it began. I had an idea that I wanted to do it, but I wasn't actively seeking out a pathway to get there when the pathway just appeared before me, and I went for it and I got it. And then all of a sudden, it's like,
Yeah.
okay, you got it. Now you got the tiger by the tail.
Right.
So that's
So how much, so you followed Ed Bargy's curriculum. So now obviously you've made changes to that. What is one thing that your
yes.
school does differently than other schools?
And I want to elaborate on before I answer that question.
Yeah.
Make no mistake, my curriculum is not the same as Ed Bar. at all. Ed's an engineer. Yeah, Ed was an engineer by trade, and his curriculum is very focused on the science of racing, and he does a great job of elevating everybody's intelligence while they're in the classroom up to a level that they can understand college level science. I don't have that background. My curriculum is focused mainly on, definitely on technique. Like Ed's, it's on technique, but a big part of my focus is on strategy and racecraft and how to win races, how to win championships. So one of the things that I think my school is unique is that I focus on how to win club races and club race championships. I've never gone pro myself, even though I had opportunities, but I never had a time where the opportunities and my financial well-being to take advantage of those opportunities intersected. I've had times where I could afford to go pro, but I didn't have the opportunities. Then I had times where I had the opportunity to go pro, but I couldn't afford to go for it. So I've always remained in the club racing pool. So the focus of my school is how to be a successful club racer, not how to go to Moto America or World Superbike or MotoGP. Honestly, if you want to go to MotoGP, you're about 20 or 30 years too late. You need to start that when you're 3 or 4 years old. But so one of the things that's very different about my school is this focus on club racing. It is a shotgun approach. I certainly cover a lot of other bases besides club racing, but the main focus is you're on the grid. How are we going to win this race? If you can't win it, how are we going to get second? If you can't get second, how are we going to get third? Because to win championships, you need to finish.
You got to be on the box
consistently.
Yeah.
And I think I'm going to elaborate on this question too, because there's a lack of consistent terminology with schools: rider school, race licensing school, new rider school, advanced technique school. There is no dictionary of motorcycle road racing that says this is what this school is, that is what that school is. When I generally refer to my school as a race licensing school, but then I see a lot of trade organizations, and I mean, no disrespect here, any school is good. Any education is better than none. But there's a lot of licensing schools out there that are literally just teaching you, these are the flags, these are the procedures, here's how you grid up, good luck. And mine's definitely a lot. We cover all that in the first 45 minutes.
Toss you in.
But then there's another 6 hours after that, that we So it's kind of interesting when when you were doing the lead and you're talking about all these different schools out there. There's so many choices, but there is really no glossary of what every school does. And of course, we all think we're awesome. Ed thinks he's awesome. I think I'm awesome. Nick Einach thinks he's awesome. Freddie Spencer thinks he's awesome. Dale Quarterly thinks he's awesome. All these people that run schools, we all think we're doing a great job. The track day organizations think they're awesome. ARMA thinks their school's awesome. Weir thinks their school's awesome. Everybody running a school thinks their school's awesome. But it'd be amazing if there was a kind of a secret shopper that would run around and take all the schools and evaluate them and talk about what each one offered.
I'll take donations.
Come on out, man. We'll get you on the East Coast. I could probably even get you a bike to ride.
Right?
So I did have a student last fall that took my school that same year he had gotten his license through a track day licensing school, did his first race, got annihilated by everybody, realized that he needed some higher education. So then he took Ed school, and then he took my school in the same weekend. He took Ed school on a Saturday and my school on a dedication. Sunday. And so I was like, dude, look, I promise I won't mention your name or share this information with anybody, but what did you look, and he was very complimentary about my school and Ed's school. But he said that the track day school was like, here's the green flag, here's the checkered flag, here's how you grid, good luck, let's go ride. And then the whole rest of the day was just track day, just riding at a track day.
Everybody loves riding the track.
Oh, what was that? He said, I asked him, well, how much did you pay for that school? He said $500. And I'm like,
Yeah.
huh? Because Ed and I are both at 550. I'm like, so for $500, you got here's the green flag, here's the oh no, hold on. My computer wants me to do something that I don't want to do. Okay, there you go. It wants to do the whole refresh thing.
Oh,
But for
okay.
$500, he got, here's the green flag, here's the checkered flag, here's how you grid up, and here's your diploma so you can go race. And pretty much nothing else. And then just a track day on top of that. And, they had some coaches pointing out some lines and stuff, but it wasn't really very structured. They weren't talking about strategies, tips, what to do, what to avoid, how to get out of sticky situations when you make a mistake, because everybody makes mistakes. That happens all the time. So that was the closest I ever got to that. Is I've had a couple students that have taken multiple schools, and I always corner those ones, the ones that have like, oh, who's taking the Champ school? Who's taking Freddie's? Who's taking Keith Code Superbike
Right.
school? I'm always curious to get the feedback from them. But,
So what is
not all
the
schools are
difference?
equal.
Yeah. Well, now there leads me to my next question. What is the difference between race licensing, new rider, and other types of schools?
That's a great question. It's hard for me to answer that without having taken a bunch of other schools myself to see what their curriculum's all about. For example, like Champ School is considered the gold standard in the country. Nick Einach has been doing this for years. He's got a great team. They're well established. They've got pro coaches. They've got bikes. It's also the most expensive experience. But it's not a race licensing school. However, if you need it to be, they're happy to add that to the curriculum.
Yeah.
If you want to go to
years
their school and you say, they're like, hey, I need to go WERA racing. They'll add a couple things in the class to make sure that you're good to go, but it's not part of their regular thing. But so it may not be a race licensing school, but it can be, and it's also the gold standard for track day experiences, and that's what they are the best at. They take street riders, bring them out to the track, and just totally take care of them. Video feedback, one-on-one coaching, all kinds of cool drills. I mean, they have the market cornered in that respect. They do a great job. But you could go to 4 of my schools and enter a weekend of racing for the cost of their school. Their one weekend. You can take my school 4 times and go sign up for a WERA race and run 3 classes on Saturday and Sunday for the same amount of money. So you have to put that into the equation. I do in general think that most of the time when you see race licensing, it usually means we're just going to cover the basics. Like, we've communicated with your local racing organization. We've found out the minimum things that they want covered, and we cover that.
Yeah.
And some do better than others, but in general, the track day focused ones are going to be like that. Whereas like new rider schools, on the opposite of that, when someone advertises it as a new rider school, often they're just looking for beginners, never been on the track before. Well, I've never been on the track before, but what if I want to race? They're like, oh, that's insane. You can't go racing without ever being on the track before. You need to do blah, 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 fill in the blank with how many track day weekends before you can go racing. That's not the case with my school. Every school that I have, I think I've done 2 schools in the last 7 years that did not have at least one person that had never been on a track before. So I have a wide mix. I get the jaded track day junkies that have been doing track days for 2 or 3 years. They're running the advanced pace. They're doing super quick lap times. And then I have people that have just been riding on the street or doing motocross or doing flat track that have never been on a road race track before ever in their life. And I take all of them and bring them down to the basics. This is probably going to come up more than once, but I follow a crawl, walk, jog, run format with the school. And I don't care if you've been to 100 track days and you can cut lap times within, a second or two of the lap record of the track. Everybody does the first session. We go schoolyards, very slow speed. We're reinforcing the line, And we built, so the number one basic skill is the race line. Once you have a good race line established, now we can start adding other skills to it, and we build and we build and we
Yeah.
build and we add more. So back to your
So you
question, I can't really say exactly what the difference between is, because mostly it's just language and semantics. But I can say what
okay.
my school is, which is my school is broad focus. If you have an interest in getting on the track and or racing, come see me, because whether you're going to go racing or whether you just want to do track days, I'm going to teach you the right way from the crawling stage and then the walking stage and then the jogging stage, and then finally go as fast as you can,
Yeah.
regardless of what your goal is, whether you want to do track days or race or whatever.
Yeah. And so with that, you also answered my next question, which basically was, like, do you need a track riding experience to be able to attend your school?
Right.
And
You
with
really
with how your
don't.
curriculum is set up, with everybody starting at the beginning, learn to crawl, walk, you're rehammering in the fundamentals for anybody who has done track days or another school or done some racing, as well as for that new rider, they're developing fundamentals from the start.
Yes. And this is not in every case, but often those experienced track day riders are missing some of these core fundamentals if they've not had any proper instruction. And it's just, and I'm not knocking track days. It's going to sound kind of like I am, but the way of learning at track days is basically grab a toe from somebody, follow somebody, and like, oh, they're going a lot faster than me, but they're going to slow down and wait for me on the straights, and I can learn. You grab a toe from somebody, and then you come back into the pits and like you lift your visor, like, hey, looking good, run a little wide there in turn 3, tighten that up a little bit, and try to be later on the brakes in turn 7. And that's the whole extent of your dialogue about how do you improve. um, so the it's possible to get fast while skipping over the fundamentals and just skipping right to the just, oh, I followed somebody really fast, so now I'm really fast. But when they leave and you're by yourself, all of a sudden your
Yeah.
pace drops. You start getting inconsistent. You don't know where you're going. That's part of why I bring everybody down. I tend to ignore whatever you might have learned in the past. I tell people, just check your egos, bring an open mind, do the drills, follow with me. This path works. And I would
Right.
say that back to the previous question, tying these two questions, fill in the blank with an X number of track days before you can go racing, or reach X pace or
Mhm.
X skill level before you can go racing, is what I would loosely call a race licensing school that doesn't really do much education, because they're depending on you to have done the education at the track days first. Whereas
Right.
like my school, you come in with zero knowledge, and I'm going to give you everything you need throughout the day, so that at the end of the day, if you want to race, you can. If you get to the end of the day and you say, I want to race, but I'm not ready, go do some track days until you feel
Right.
ready, and then go race. There's no pressure at the end of the day that you have to go racing, but I'm going to make sure that at the end of the day, you've been given every single bit of knowledge, and the help getting up to the speed to do it and be competitive, should you so desire.
Yeah. So what made you start your motorcycle race school, and what gap were you trying to fill there with your curriculum, as opposed to
So,
other schools you've been
the
experienced to?
first, yeah, so at first I was doing the school for Arma. So the gap I was filling was their current guy stepped out, so I was
Mhm.
the substitute. But I read his curriculum, and I was happy not to copy it. I'm not going to trash it. It wasn't horrible, but it wasn't the way I wanted to teach. So I was looking to fill a gap that I, I want everybody to be safe, but I also want people to be fast. I
Mhm.
want people to be competitive. And so I was trying to just get as much education out there, cram as much education into a 12, yeah, it's a 10-hour window. We start at 7 a.m. and we're usually done around 5. Just how much knowledge can I share in 10 hours, both in on the track and in the classroom. And quite honestly, the track stuff is important, but the classroom stuff is more important. The true value in my school is listening to me talk for 7 hours. One of the fun things I do is that for lunchtime, we watch a video that I've created that's, I've been running a GoPro since 2013. So
Oh, nice.
I've caught a lot of stupid mistakes on film. So instead of a video of glorifying how awesome I am and look at all these race wins and look at all these championships, I have a video of here's what to do when you get into a turn too hot. You missed your braking marker and you just throttle stuck, false neutral going into a turn, collision with another rider, didn't pay attention to changing conditions, and all of a sudden it's pouring rain in a corner that was dry 200 yards ago. So I have it's a blooper reel of screw ups, and I teach people not only how to avoid the screw ups, but then if you find yourself in the screw up, how to at least minimize the damage or evade the damage and escape without any damage. And it's kind of a humble thing to show people I'm human. I've won a lot of races, I won a lot of championships, but I screw up all the time. I mean, everybody does. I have a saying that when the visor goes down, the brain shuts off. It's sit there in class and I can tell you this and you say, I got it. I understand. Yes, I'm going to do that. And then your visor goes down. You're like, huh? What?
Right.
Oh, look, a checker flat. People get dumb. I get dumb when my visor goes down and everybody else does too. So,
So what's one mistake that you see riders make over and over again on track?
There's a few. A big mistake I get with new students is overemphasis on BP. BP is very misunderstood. And when I say this, people twist my words to mean that I'm saying BP is not important. And of course it's important. But when you're starting out, it is so far. There's a list of 20 things that are important, and BP is like 18 or 19. You know what I mean? It is so far to the bottom, but people are they get the picture and like, look at my progress. Here's me this week, and here's me next week. Look how much I progress. And the first thing I want to say is, what were your lap times? What were your lap times? Because I can go around a turn and hang off. I can hang way off and look like Mark Marquez.
Right, yeah.
And my lap times aren't going to improve. BP doesn't make you faster, but going fast makes you require better P. So, but getting good BP makes you look good, and it's easy to quantify BP improvements because all you need is a single snapshot from a camera to verify an improvement in BP.
Right.
So people focus on BP because it's easy, and schools and not just the riders focus on BP, but a lot of schools focus on BP because they can take a picture of you in the morning and then take a picture in the afternoon and say, look how much you improved with our school.
Look at your progress.
And of course, here I am. I'm like, what were your lap times? I don't care what your BP looks like.
Well, yeah,
how
your
fast
statistics.
were you going?
Yeah.
The lap time, everything as far as racing goes. If you can't, if one person's doing 120s and you're doing 22s, you're not going to see them for very long. 2 seconds a lap is huge. That's by the third lap, they're out of sight. You can't even see them anymore. So I don't care how good you look with your BP. If you can't do a minute 20 and everybody else is doing minute 20s, then who cares what you look like? So that's probably the number one mistake, is I see an overemphasis on BP. The reality of BP is that the faster you go, the better your BP needs to get. But if you focus on the fundamentals like line selection, braking technique, throttle control, hitting your marks, using all the track on, using all the track both on the setup and on the exits. People make a big effort to set up their turns really good, and then they hit the apex, and then they exit the track using with 3/4 of the track still on the outside of them. Like, you just overslowed for that thing big time.
Right. Yeah. So how do you help
focus on all
riders?
of these
Oh, whoops.
things? And I was just saying, if you focus on the core fundamentals, BP will naturally evolve. The faster you get, you'll find yourself hanging off. You'll start dragging things. Like it'll start with your boot or a knee or a body work or a pipe or a peg. But when you start dragging things, that's your bike telling you, time to work on some BP. Get your butt off the seat. You know,
Right.
get one cheek off. Let's get a knee out. Get your elbows down. You know, that's what. So the one follows the other. The one does not create the other.
Yeah. So how do you help riders get past fear or hesitation on track?
Fear's weird because you need it. There's nothing wrong with being afraid. I tell people I'm the biggest chicken out there. They call me a liar. Like, I've seen you ride, you're flying. I'm like, no, 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 no. I am always scared. I mean, my biggest fear is losing the front, low side, the sudden low side. High sides hurt you more, but you usually have a warning when the back end lets go. But when I'm at full lean, if that front just tucks, it's like you're going over, and you're not going to get hurt, but you're crashing, and you just messed up your bike, and you just got a DNF in the race. So I always ride in fear of that sudden low side. They don't happen often because I ride scared. At 57, I ride more scared than I did when I was 40, and I'm more scared than I was when I was 25 when I started. But I've always had that same fear. I'm afraid of losing the front, so I ride with a little bit of caution. To help people overcome their fears, I don't want them to lose their fear. I want them to have it, but I want them to face it and find ways to work around it. And the best way to get around fears is repetition. Follow the leader. Let me show you how I take that turn. Here, follow me. I'm going to show you how to take that turn. I do little things to try to inspire confidence with riders too when they're having a confidence issue in a part of the track. I can back up a little bit so you can see one of my big things. I'll ride one-handed, and I'll put my left arm on my hips while I'm riding to show them, look, this is so easy. I can do it one-handed. So just keep both hands on the handlebar, but you just follow me. And I kind of build their confidence. They say, gosh, the fat old guy's riding one-handed on his vintage bike. I guess I can keep up on my V4.
Right.
And so, but the best way to overcome fears is repetition. Just keep on doing it. Baby steps. This is sort of related to the question, but one of the mental things about limits. How do you approach limits safely? The best analogy I've ever come up with for this is described as finding your limits on the racetrack is just like putting on a blindfold and walking towards a cliff. When you know you're far away from the cliff, you can take some pretty big steps.
Oh, yeah.
But you don't know how close you're getting. And the closer you get, the smaller the steps have to get. Otherwise, you're just going to go right over the edge. And hopefully when you're right near the edge, you're taking little baby steps and your toes will go over the edge and you'll feel those like, okay, there's the edge. It's the same thing with racing. A first-time novice coming to the track is going to be able to take big steps. If you go out to XYZ track and you're first out there, you're doing 3 minutes a lap, it's not uncommon that the next session you might be doing 2:45, taking off a 15-second chunk of time in one session. But then your next session out there, we don't want to take another 15 seconds. This time we might want to just take 10 seconds off. And as we get closer and closer to that edge, we're going to take smaller and smaller chunks till if the actual lap record of that track is a 1:15, when you get down into that 1:30 range, now we're going to start shaving tenths of a second. The closer you get, the smaller the steps have to be. 90% of the crashes for first-time racers just come simply from taking too big of a step. They're not aware that they're close to the cliff's edge, and they say, wow, every lap I've gone faster and everything's going great, so I'm just going to keep on going faster and faster. And then they don't realize that last lap they got away with it. The edge was right here, and they were right there, but they had a blindfold on, so they didn't see that. And then the next lap, they they go way over the edge and they just crash. And then it's always, oh, I think I had cold tires, or I didn't load the unloaded front end, or my BP was off. I need better BP. But really, they just need more awareness. They need to take smaller steps. Take your time.
Yeah.
Patience is a virtue.
And that's where body position can help, because dragging your knee is more of a feeler, right? Like, this is where
it lets you know
this is like, we're still safe right here, at
Yep.
whatever speed. Because you can go out to a parking lot and start doing circles and be able to drag your knee doing 10 miles an hour. Out at a racetrack,
10 miles, right.
100
It's not
miles
the
an
same as
hour.
100.
Yeah. You're going to load the suspension differently.
It's a
Your
little
bike's
different.
going to get lower. The tires are going to squish a lot more, and the limit might be different. I'm not speaking from experience. I'm using an analytical mind here. But if is there one small change that can instantly make a rider better?
I don't know if there is one. I'd like to know what it is, because I'd like to be better.
Well, I mean, like, everybody's looking for that one little piece of advice that's going to turn them into Marc Marquez, right? And so that's where the premise of this question comes from.
Take a school.
Yeah, right. But there isn't. There isn't one little trick or tip that's going to immediately make you better, because it's a progression. It's consistency. It's going out there, getting the seat time, and really learning yourself and your bike, which then leads me to my next question, which is, how much of improvement is mental over physical?
It's a hard one to put an actual hard percentage on. Like, how do we measure this? But the words a lot is mental. The majority is mental. It's definitely more mental. I can share from my experience that when I started racing, I was 150 pounds and young, skinny. I smoked like a chimney, and I had a lot of things going for me at the petrol department. And when I quit smoking 25 years ago, the weight started going on a little bit every year, just 2 or 3 pounds every year. But when you measure that over decades, that turns into a lot of weight. But I, about a year, 16 months ago, I was 280 pounds. I'm still fast as a 280-pound rider. I'm still very competitive. Maybe not as competitive as I was when I was 150. You definitely lose something on the straights, not only to the acceleration, but also the aerodynamic. When you're wide, you're not cutting through the wind very well.
You're kind of a balloon blowing in the wind.
Yeah,
like outside of a car. As a kid, sticking your balloon out the window.
I was still able to go very fast because I have strong mental strength and experience and everything. But I went on a diet last year, and I lost 52 pounds in 8 months.
Congratulations!
And my lap times came down considerably. Thank you, and holding it too. I haven't lost anymore, but I haven't gained anymore. So
yeah.
So the physical side. The only thing I would say about physical is that you really do need some strong aerobic base and flexibility. Core stuff is really good. The only exercise I really do is I do yoga almost every day, and I ride a bicycle about 2,500 to 3,500 miles a year, and it's usually a daily commute. So I'm getting regular aerobic fitness, and I've always been addicted to bike riding. So I've always, even when I was fat and out of shape, I was still riding a lot and I had a good core of aerobic fitness. I just ate too much food. I had a bad appetite control.
Hey, there is nothing wrong with enjoying.
But I've never.
Food.
Yeah, I mean, it's great fun, but I've never been big on going to the gym, lifting weights, focusing on some body part. You do need you need need some upper body stuff. Your transitions from left to right, good. And good core is good for everything. Core is nice, but physically you can still be fast and be a couch potato. You just can't do it as long. You might be good, capable of putting in a couple fast laps, and then
Your
your
endurance
performance is
drops
going to
off.
drop off. Yeah, the aerobic and the having a strong core and just general decent fitness everywhere is really what's required. You can go out there and put in, if it's a sprint race, you need to have those 8 laps. Boom, boom, boom. 8th lap needs to be just as fast as the first lap. If it's endurance racing, you need to be able to put in either an hour or a 90-minute session. Last lap needs to be just as fast as your first lap in an endurance race. So depending on the kind of racing, for sure, some physical fitness definitely takes place. But when it comes to outright speed, like turning a qualifying lap, oh, here's a great one. Look at Anthony Gobert. That guy was a legend. Unbelievable talent, super, super fast. But then he had some, addiction issues. He stopped working out, but he would show up and he would put it on the pole. He'd be out of shape and he was out partying the night before. He was all hungover, but he'd show up and bam, steal another Rolex with another pole position. But then he'd go really fast and crash in the race, and he's no longer with us. I don't know if you know who he is, but
I don't.
But he was a top world superbike rider. Yeah,
Oh,
he was a
wow.
big sensation in the '90s, and then he had his problems, and then he tried to make a resurgence, and a really tragic story. Basically addiction killed him. I hate that, but he's a great example of somebody that was in shape, was really fast, got out of shape. He was still really fast, but his consistency, just when he wasn't in shape, he was no longer a consistent rider. And so working out is good. It's definitely good, but it's not necessarily going to make you any faster. It will make you more consistent.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you got to exercise all the muscles in your body, including your brain mentally. And if you are struggling here physically, moving around on the bike while you're trying to push it, you're going to lose it up here because your brain's going to start focusing on the fatigue of your body. And then next thing you know, your fundamentals are going to drop off. There's going to affect your body position when you're leaned over, trying to stay consistent there through that turn. Either going to low side or you're going to get impatient on the exit, give it too much throttle, and potentially high side. That's simple. A simple example.
Very accurate. That's very accurate.
So,
that's very accurate.
So I'm curious, do you have any success stories that come from any of your students?
For sure. A lot of success on the club level. I have I actually have no idea how many dozens of students have gone on to win races and national championships in club racing. Dozens. If I had to guess, probably in the 70 to 80 range, something like that. But I've also had a couple students go on to Moto America and end up on podiums. And I can tell you my proudest moment running a school was the first time Chloe Peterson, and Chloe Madrill now, she took my school, raced for a year with ARMA, and then got involved in the BTR program. And she ended up on the podium at VIR. At VIR, she got second, and she thanked me on the podium. I was in the audience. That's my home track, so I was there to spectate. And I got to tell you, I was getting a little I was starting to tear up. That it meant so much to me to hear my name mentioned on it's an international stage, really, when you look at it. Moto America gets broadcast all over the world. And in the BTR program, they have so many great mentors. You got Freddie friggin' Spencer mentoring you, and everybody in the pro paddock is trying to help the girls out. So for her to single me out and thank me really just blew me away. So that I would say that that's my, regardless of some others may have gone on and done better than that, but for me, that was such a significant moment. It just really redefined things. And actually, that was the first year that I had just broken away from Arma and started doing my own school. So it was doubly rewarding because here I am
Oh,
taking the
nice.
big plunge of, oh, I'm going into the deep end without my water wings, having to do my own thing, oh, I did an LLC, I've started my own business. And to
Yeah.
have, that validation of having a former student go out there and, podium on the, on the national level was pretty exciting. So,
That's amazing. Yeah, no, I love the Moto America BTR program. We just had Brianna Everett and her husband Josh Everett on the stream last week, and
yeah,
they
I
had
met I
nothing
met
but praise.
Brianna at I met her at VIR last year. She's a very talented racer, and watched her. She did quite well. Typical of somebody just starting out, and in the BTR program. That was her first year with it. On day one, you could see that she was struggling, and on day two, it was like a completely different rider. And I think she finished like 4 or 5 positions farther up on day two than she did on day one.
Yeah.
It was really great seeing that progress. You could just see it in her aggression on the bike. Day one, she looked kind of nervous and scared. Day two, she was like,
She's
angry.
locked
I want
in.
that. I'm going to get you, really awesome
Yeah,
seeing that.
that
The
is that is
the mortician.
amazing. Yeah. So, have you ever had a student surprise you with how quickly they improved?
Yeah. So this is a funny one. This is a, a kind of a cool story. Very first school I taught. So I'm nervous about this school, and I'm leaving no stone unturned. The school hasn't even happened yet. It's my first time teaching, and they have it. Arma had it set up that people could automatically enroll, but I was like, no, I want them to ask me. They're like, well, why don't you just print up a list of frequently asked questions? I'm like, no. Just put my email there and have them email me. I want to answer everyone's questions personally.
Yeah.
And so I had this guy, and granted, Arma is a vintage racing organization. It's not just the bikes. A lot of the people racing Arma are also older in age. There's some young
Yeah.
people there too. Don't get me wrong. It's not just an old person organization, but you'd be shocked at some of the older riders that are out there racing really hard with Arma. So anyhow, I get this. Oh,
No, you're good. You're good. I just gave you the full
Okay.
screen so you could tell your story.
Look at that. The whole screen.
Yeah.
Look at that banner. Wow.
Yeah.
Look at those
Go ahead.
movies. This email from a guy, and he says, "Hey, I've got some questions. This is going to be my first time on a racetrack. I've never been on a racetrack before or done any track days. I've never even owned a street bike." I'm like, "Oh." So motocross? You've been racing motocross all your life? He goes, "Well, I've raced motocross before, but only for I just started racing 3 years ago, and I'm I'm about to turn 76, and my
Whoa.
doctor says I can't handle the risks associated with motocross anymore. So I thought I'd try road racing because it looks to be a lot safer." And I'm like, wow. I'm not going to turn the guy away, but I'm like, this sounds a little scary. But in general, I had learned this through being a coach with ed schools. Usually the transition from off-road, if somebody's a motocross racer and they go to road racing, it's usually a pretty pain. They're usually instantly fast. Dirt bike riding is harder. I mean, it's, the bikes move around, you lose traction, you got to do 3 dimensions with going over jumps. Most dirt bike riders, they get on the road race track, they're like, oh, I only have to turn left and right. And the tires stay connected to the pavement all the time. This is pretty awesome. So I just told him, keep an open mind, don't do anything stupid, follow the programs. We're gonna hold your hand and teach you everything you need to know. And even better, I asked him what kind of bike he was racing. He's racing a 1970 RD200. I'm like, oh man. And I'm a 2-stroke guy. I love the old RDs, but I'm like, that bike is like at with a tailwind might go 90 miles per hour. I mean, it is tiny, tiny little twin cylinder 2-stroke. And I'm just thinking, I just said, make sure you're jetted up really rich so you don't seize.
Oh, right.
If it seizes, you're done. So he comes and takes the school, and nicest guy in the world. I get to inside of the class and everything. He's really wonderful person, huge heart, generous spirit. Became one of my fast friends on the track. But anyhow, during the school, not surprisingly, not only is his bike the slowest bike in the school, but he was the only 76-year-old in the school, and he was taking things easy. But he wasn't unsafe. He held his line. He rode smoothly. He was dead last in the mock race, but he passed the test. He checked all the boxes. Everything seemed safe. So I signed him over, and he did his first race on Saturday. Didn't crash. Finished last, but he didn't crash. He did a great job, and I was really proud of him. And then Sunday morning, I'm walking through the pits, and I walk by his pit. He goes, Mark, I got to tell you something. I'm like, what? He's like, I knocked a minute off my lap times from Friday to Saturday.
Whoa.
And I'm thinking, I go around that place at a minute 22. So I'm like, a minute's an awful large chunk of time there. Like, how fast were you going Friday? He's like, well, I was doing like 3 10s. And yesterday I did 2 10s. I'm like, wow, on a 200, on an RD 200, like that's like the outright track record on a V4 or something is
right,
like a minute 12. So I would say in some ways, someone dropping a whole minute off their lap times in a 24-hour period, from taking their school to doing their first race the next day, that's got to be one of the biggest, most dramatic improvements I've ever seen. I mean, it was just, and he went on to be a regular podium finisher and an occasional race, quite a good racer. So, but it started with 3+ minute lap times at a track that most people are turning minute 20, 25. So I knocked a whole minute. It was pretty exciting.
Wow. So, what's the wildest or funniest thing you've seen happen during a training day?
The mock race is usually the source of some funny things. Mainly because of the visor down, brain off phenomenon. We practice drills. I do the crawl, walk, jog, run. I go through all these steps to bring them gradually up and desynthesize them. And we do practice starts, so they get, but, at the end of the day, the mock race comes, everyone's so excited. There's always something stupid. And I'm going to share 2 of them. And of course, no names are being mentioned here. The first one's kind of sad. It's the only time. Yeah. Well, if they're watching, but the first one's kind of sad because, knock on wood, it's the only time I've ever had to have an ambulance for one of my schools. I've had people crash before, but it's usually just a little low side tumble. Get up, dust yourself off, let's go. But I had somebody noon their KTM 390 of all things, one of the slowest modern bikes you can ride. A KTM 390 that started through the green flag. He nooned that thing right up at 12 o'clock and then put his leg out to try and catch it. And it came over sideways and he popped his knee and had to get transported. I was just like, of all the things, he looped a KTM and broke, messed up, popped one of the things in his knee, the AC joint.
ACL,
whatever it was.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I can't remember the exact injury, but the next day his knee was the size of a pumpkin, and he was limping around, and I felt horrible. But it's one thing if you like a V4, something with 200 horsepower, you expect to loop that, but as a KTM 390, and he just went straight up.
When he launched,
went over sideways.
He must have been like full throttle, dumped the clutch. It took off in front of him, and He just
Yeah.
like bounced.
They
on
have a
the
very
back
low
tire.
first gear. All of those
Yeah.
little bikes, the Ninja 400, Ninja 300, KTM, R3, they have a very low first gear. So in spite of not having a lot of horsepower, they can still you can very easily loft the front end and first on them. So that was kind of a sad, funny thing. And then I also had a student that, you know, he was doing well, but I could tell he was kind of frustrated. He was kind of, you know, the saying, he got in his head. He was in his head too much. And he went out and they went on their warm-up lap for the mock race, and they come up to the grid and he just went flying right by. Didn't realize that he was supposed to stop on the front straight to line up for his, and so he went around and basically took a second warm-up lap. And the starter was like, I am going to start this race before. He was like, come on, hurry up. He wanted to, like, he was pissed. He launches the race just as this guy's coming around the last corner, coming up on the front straight. The rest of the mock race goes off without incident until the checkers comes out. And guess what? He took a second. He missed the checkers and took a second lap before. So he took a victory lap at the end of the mock race. And so he ended up being the first person in history to turn a 4-lap mock race into a 6-lap mock race with 2 warm-up laps and 2 cool-down laps. It's a first. So those are the 2 weirdest, kind of strange, you know, bizarre things that ever happened.
That's good. That's so good. Definitely in his own head. So go ahead.
The starter came over to talk to us personally after. The starter came over to talk to me personally after that one. I got a lecture after that one.
Like, what are you teaching them?
Yeah. And by the way, the starter was Ed Bargy, my mentor.
Oh my God.
You know, he's got a side hustle as the starter. You know, he runs his school and he does the flags for armor races. I was just like, Ed, I promise you, I didn't teach that.
He's like, did you teach him anything? He doesn't understand how the race works.
Like, everybody else just took 1 warm-up lap and 1 cool-down lap. You know, come on, give me some slack. But
oh man,
but it's all.
See,
I'm
always afraid of that. Whenever I race go-karts, I'm always afraid of like that last lap. Like, we went through the checkered, and then, you know, like, we're coming back around, and I'm like, all right, are we exiting now?
Yeah. If they don't exit, I'm not exiting.
Exactly.
I've mistaken checkers for white before, and I've mistaken white for checkers before. So those 2, you know, sometimes you're just so focused on what's in front of you, you see a little white blur, and like, was that all white or was that black and white? I know there was white.
So then you wait for the next corner station, you know, and you're like, what flag are they waving? Yeah. So
I got a GoPro video of me mistaking. I thought the checker was the white flag. And so, and I was battling for the win with this other guy who was right in front of me. So we go past the checkers that I thought was white, and suddenly he slows down, and I'm thinking, and he was on a 2-stroke and I was on a 2-stroke. I was like, oh, he seized. And I'm like hammering down that last
we're
lap.
going.
And I come by and I take a second checkers, and you can hear me. I'm like, woo! I'm screaming at the top of the lungs, like, yeah, fun. And then I come back into the pits and like, why'd you take 2 cool down laps? I'm like, oh, I didn't win, did I? I got second. And they're like, yeah, you got second in the middle, man. We were hoping you'd get them. I was like, man, I was so deflated. I wasn't even embarrassed about the second lap. I was deflated because I thought I won that race. And I was like, no. And you can hear it in the YouTube video, the GoPro video. Like, you hear me screaming.
Oh, so if you could give every rider 1 rule to live by on the track, what would it be?
Patience. Patience applies in so many different ways, but it comes into, I mean, my biggest mistakes were always because I was in too big of a rush. I always, whether it's machine prep, whether it's, you know, out on the track going for that pass that you should probably just wait and follow for another lap to see where the person's really going to go. Pace, or just pushing too hard too soon. When you're trying to learn a new track, and I want to hit a certain lap time, and I'm just pushing for the lap time and just riding like an idiot. But patience is so important in this sport, and I think it is part of why the longer you do this, it's part of why you get better as you get older. It's not just the experience, it's not just the more practice and getting more repetition, but it's also having the impulse control to say, I don't need to go for it. I can just wait. If it's an 8-lap race and there's somebody, I'm following first or second or something, I don't need to pass them right now. It's okay to sit and follow people, and I see so many accidents that just come from people impatient to make the pass. They stuff somebody, stand somebody up, run them off the track. You've got time. You've got time to make this, and it's just club racing. They're just plastic or tin trophies.
And a little bit of money, maybe.
It's not worth hurting something. There's not much money at the club level. Once you're an expert, at the expert level, there's a tiny bit of money, but nobody's paying for the racing. They're just subsidizing their expenses with, discounted tires and stuff like that. I mean, the sport doesn't get much support. But man, patience, it's just not worth it. Don't go for it. Sit, follow, study, look for the weakness, look for the easy pass. So if there's one word I would share, it would be patience. Just be patient. Take your time. You will get faster. If you're slow and you're struggling and you're at the back of the pack and you're watching everybody run away from you every weekend, go get some coaching, take a school, read a book, be patient, put in the laps, put in the work. The work gets rewarded. You put in the laps, you'll get faster.
There's no trophies for there's no trophies for putting dirt inside your bike.
No, it's not. Never fun fixing them and cleaning them and healing injured bikes or nothing, man. Bones suck.
Yeah, right.
Breaking bones is the worst.
Okay, so now we're getting close to the end here. All right. So if someone's on the fence about signing up, what would you tell them?
Sign up, but I would share. I had a track day group hire me. Look, I jokingly say they pimped me out to be one of their VIP coaches once, and they charged a lot more than I felt I was worth. To coach people private coaching. And the first time I went and did this and gave this guy private coaching, at the end of the day, I asked him, I said, because I didn't want to say anything about money, but I just said, do you feel you got a good value out of the day? You paid 3 times what I charge for private coaching on my website right now. And so I was just like thrilled to get that money for one day of work. And he's immediately said, absolutely. I go, oh, please elaborate why. He said, I learned more today than I would have learned coming to this track 10 times on my own. And 10 track days costs a lot more. That's 5 times as much as what I just paid you for this coaching. So you just saved me X number of dollars by speeding up my learning process. And I'm a better rider now because of it. And so it really helped me realize that, I was having issues with my own self-worth and value just because because when I was starting out, I didn't want to ask for too much money because I was trying to build business, but it made me realize that, what I've got to teach is worth a lot more than what I'm charging people for. So, take the school, get the education. Most people that take the school or hire me for private coaching have something similar to say, like how they're amazed how much they learned in such a short amount of time. Because like with my school, I spend a big part of the school talking about the mistakes I've made and how to avoid making them yourself and how to keep it on 2 wheels if you do make a mistake. The alternative to that is going out and making the mistakes and learning those lessons the hard way. So take to school.
Yeah. So I'm gonna reach out to the chat here. Does anybody have any questions for Mark about road racing schools? I'm gonna go ahead and ask another question. Go ahead, Mark. I see you got something on your mind.
No, I'm excited to hear questions from the collective.
Yeah, yeah. So
If you have
I'm gonna ask a question right now. So while he's answering this one, if you guys have any questions, go ahead and drop them down in the chat, and we'll answer them. But what can someone expect from their very first day at your school?
You're gonna, like, you want me to describe the itinerary, like what happens and how it works,
Yeah,
or just
like
what can you expect to learn?
when somebody
Is-
pulls up to the parking lot and they're heading over there. Like, what are they going to expect? Let's create a little visualization
Yeah.
right here.
So here's what we start off the day with: a track walk. I call it track tour because often we just pile in the van, so we don't have to do a bunch of walking. But we'll stop at every corner, and I will give a lot of insight, not just about that corner in general, but also about techniques, strategies, and racecraft in general. Not just in this corner do this, but also when you see corners like this at other tracks, here's basic things you can do. That generally takes about 45 to 50 minutes to do the track tour, and then we go into the classroom. And this is what I call the boring part of the day, which is getting through all of the fundamental things that the race org wants the students to know. So they want the students to know the flags backwards, forwards, blindfolded. Also,
Right.
every race org, a lot of race orgs have different flags. Wira and Arma have different meanings for the meatball flag and the black flag. They're opposite with each other. Moto America
Okay.
has one. World Superbike has one. World Superbike and Moto America are crisscrossed on the same thing. So
It's confusing.
we learn the flags. We learn the procedures, what first call, second call, third call, what the 5 board, the 4 board, the 3 board. First, second, third call is pretty common at all track days, but the boards are not. That you only see those at race tracks. We go over the starting procedures, how to grid, all the nuts and bolts, boring classroom stuff. I get that out of the way in the morning, because before we even put leathers on, I tell people, show up wearing, comfortable walking shoes, because you're going to be walking and sitting in the classroom for the first part of the day. And schedule wise, because we're going to have a mock race at the end of the day, which is like an extra session, I skip the first round so that we can get all this boring stuff, just knock it all out before we ever get out on the track. Because I really want our on-track sessions to be focused on actual techniques. So we get all that boring stuff out in this ultra long, kind of boring hour-and-a-half session, which kind of sucks. But now the boring part of the day is behind us. And from there, we start working on techniques. And for the rest of the day, the pattern is going to be 45 minutes in the classroom to talk about something, and then 15 minutes on the track to work on that thing. And then back in the classroom, 45 minutes, 15 out on the track. And like I was telling you before, the first track session, we're going 50, maybe 60 miles per hour on the straights. We're going super slow, single file, follow the leader. Some of the more experienced riders are rolling their eyes like, why is he making us do this stupid slow stuff? But you got to do it. It's line reinforcement. It's getting the basics down.
Right.
And the second session, we usually do a much faster, but still follow the leader, no passing. And then we have lunch, and lunch is where I show the fun video with all the stupid mistakes that Mark's made and how to survive them and stuff. We have a good time with that. And then the afternoon is where we start. Now we're doing the wave buys. Now with the coaches, and I have a lot of coaches. I keep a very real, I usually keep a 2 or 3 to 1 student to coach ratio.
Oh, that's good.
And the afternoon is, so then the afternoon, now the students are leading and we're following them and we're giving them feedback, and we do the classic. I don't like teaching through mirrors, even though I recognize that some people do great with it, but I have my coaches teach from behind, And then when they see the student do something that needs improvement, they pass them right before that corner the next lap and tap the tail and say, so if you're struggling, if you're hitting a wrong line in turn 3, I'm going to pass you exiting turn 2 and then get right in front of you approaching turn 3. And I'd be like, tap my tail section, like follow me exactly. And I'll slow it down so that we can remove the fear and the overriding and all those negative things, so you can slow it down and really hit that line perfect. And then I'm going to wave you back by before we get to turn 3 on the next lap, because I want to see you do turn 3. I want to see if you've got it. If you got it, now we find the next turn you're screwing up in. And we just, I have a phrase that's called go after the low hanging fruits. So we always go after the stupidest, dumbest, slowest things first. And as we pick the low fruit off, then we start working on the harder and harder and scarier things, but most people most first timers in the school have not just one, but several things that they're doing that are just so simple to fix, that don't increase risk, don't increase danger, don't increase fear, but just, if you stop doing this bad, stupid thing, you'll go faster. And my coaches are very good at finding those things, and we just start working on everybody. And as the day goes on, we just go faster and faster and work on more and more advanced things.
Yeah.
And then our last session is always the free-for-all. I tell people, okay, there's no coaching in this one. This one it's dress rehearsal for the mock race. You guys go out there and just go as fast as you want. And I'm just going to warn you that myself and my coaches are also going to be out there going as fast as we want. And we're not going to try to scare you, but we're also not going to slow down and hold your hands and pass you gently. We're just going to go by.
Right.
So be prepared for people to zip on by. And that's always a fun session. Usually one or two or more of my coaches and I, any of us that are on the same size bike, we all end up having a fun battle, chasing each other as we work our way through all the students, and, just go out there and just treat it like a little mini coaches race, just kind of terrorize and have fun. And then I never participate. The mock race I always watch because I need to see what's going on. But I have my coaches start in the mock race. They all start in the second wave. So I'll have the students go in the first wave, and then I hold the coaches for 5 or 10 seconds, and I sick them all on the students. And their instructions are to hassle but not beat. Oh, math. This guy, that's one of my best coaches. All my coaches are my best coaches. They're all amazing. But
what's the best VP? Is it just dragging the knee? Is it dragging the knee and elbow? Is it dragging the side of the helmet?
In Matt's case, it's the earlobe. Matt drags his earlobe. He's
looking like an MMA fighter over there.
Matt's a top 10 Moto America finisher. He's kind of quick. He gets on my bike. He races endurance with me and gets on my own bike and shows me how to go 4 or 5 seconds a lap
faster
on the same bike. It's not pretty.
It's not congratulations.
Pretty. It's not pretty. It's,
I'll look for you. I'll look for you and Barbara.
We get to look at the data. Yeah, we get to look at the data, and he's like, I'm looking like, wow, I was doing 111 on the back straight, but you're doing 119. Why is that? It's the same bike. Why is it going 119 with him on it? It's going 111 with me on it.
He'll be nice to you and tell you that's just the exit. Yeah. He'll tell you it's just his exit speed.
Just the exit.
All right.
Yeah.
So do you
so at the end of the day, then we have a mock race and a written test.
Okay. What's on the written test?
I was just saying, the end of the day, we have the mock race and then a written test. Fiendishly difficult, questions. It's kind of funny because I don't want to fail anybody, but I don't want it to be a pushover either. But so a portion of the test is covered in the class. Like I'll tell people, this is the answer to this question, but it's all the simple stuff, the flag stuff, the stuff that if you miss this, you really probably should not be out there,
Yeah.
So I give them all the answers for the first 2/3 of the test, But I tell them, if you miss one, I'm probably going to fail you because I just gave you
You
the
aren't paying
answers,
attention.
but then the last third is pretty tricky. True false. I mean, they're not super tricky. They seem obvious, but there's a couple that I do some creative wording to try to trick people into the wrong answers, But it's not, as tests go, it's not a hard test. My goal is not to fail people. I want to see everybody pass. And I
Yeah.
get it too that some people don't excel in the testing environment, but you have to do well enough to, you need to show me that you had a pulse and you're paying attention in the class. So it's not hard, but it is, you have to pay attention. You won't pass it if you're not paying attention in class.
So I got a
And that's
question
the end
for
of the
you.
day. Then we hand out diplomas. Party. Yeah.
Yeah. So I got a question when it comes to technique. During my track day, my rear brake decided to leave the chat. And because I learned how to ride dirt bikes in the bayous of Louisiana, and we use the rear brake a lot to help us with our corner, create a tighter corner. A lot of guys were like, "Oh, you don't need the rear brake," and I'm like, I'm kind of partial to it. Like, I like it. How important is the rear brake?
So you gotta be very careful to take my words exactly as I'm saying them and not twist them here. But you don't need your rear brake at all. I'm not saying it's not an important tool. Expert level road racers can use the rear brake to great advantage. Absolutely. It's a very good extra advanced level tool. When I learned to road race, the standard form of teaching was to tell people do not use the rear brake at all. Oh, Matt is paying attention. He's up with current events. But I follow that mode, but I tell people in class, when you get so fast that you're so consistent that you're stagnant with your lap times, you've been coming to the same track and hitting the same lap times, and you're looking for that last, and Matt's making a joke, but really it is when you're looking for that last 2%, only then is it a good idea to start working on using the rear brake, and you don't really use it for braking the last.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. I don't use it to slow me down.
Use it to tightening arcs and corners and wheelie control on bikes that don't have the luxurious electronics package that you have on your V4.
I still use the rear brake, even though, because if the electronics is kicking in, then I've let it come up too far. So I use my rear brake to catch it before. So right when I'm cracking in, I know where it wants to go and pick up, like where that torque comes in. So I'll tap the rear brake just a little bit just to keep it down, because if the electronics kick in, it's cutting power.
But I'm going to tell you that in 31 years, I've used my rear brake on the pavement of a track probably 3 or 4 times. And I am not the fastest guy in the country or anything, but I have won a Matt, oh my God, you're gonna get me busted here. Shh, don't pay no attention to what's on this technical sport. We're experiencing technical difficulties here right now.
Difficulties.
If you pumped it a bunch of times, it would start to sort of work. But it wasn't really, I've mostly ridden lightweight bikes, and on lightweight bikes, you just don't need them at all. But I will say that tracks like Mid-Ohio and Barber, and probably the Ridge out by you, when you have a situation where you have a corner crest over a hill, a little drag of the rear brake is really nice for keeping that, at turn 2 at Barber or turn 3 at Barber really gets light on a Ninja 400 or an RD 400. I can just go over that thing wide open. But when I went there on my Aprilia, which Yeah, it's like 85 horsepower, 300-pound two-stroke. It would get really twitchy going over turn 3. And so I found to just drag that rear brake as I'm going over that hill. And turn 13 is also the same way. You're coming up a big hill while you're still fully leaned over and get all loose and wiggly. So rear brake's kind of useful there.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not even in my brain to use my rear brake. Why we don't want you to use it is because it divides your attention on your brain. I want you to focus on your front brake. You will progress faster as a novice by learning to maximize your front brake. Until you're hitting your front brake hard enough that you can lift the rear wheel off the ground consistently, you're not using enough front brake. So that's where I want your focus on is maximum front brake. Because when you start saying, oh, I'm going to do 80-20 or 70-30 or 90-10, are you really? Oh, what? You got a little gauge there? They could say 90 on the front and 10 on the rear. Really? Your brain is thinking about how much front and how much rear, and is it wiggling? And then the thing that we as instructors are terrified about, it causes us to lose sleep, is you're going to start using the rear brake going to a turn. The back end's going to start fishtailing, and then you're going to let go of that rear brake when the bike's kicking to the side, and you're going to high side.
Yeah.
And nobody wants that. And if you're not touching your rear brake, that's not going to happen. But I get it, the whole tightening up a corner. But I would say that at the level you're at, if you're using the rear brake to tighten up your corner, you probably should have just had a better line to begin with.
Yeah.
It's not a slap on you. I'm just saying,
as
a novice, there's way higher up the tree. There's much better thing. Oh my God. Rear dancing leg day. Is that a tongue twister?
I think he was. I think he was
the dancing danglers.
It. Yeah,
I got it now. Yeah, the danglers.
Yeah, for me, I've always used it as more of a tool to help with stability. When coming in, because I find myself when I am getting on the brakes hard, the rear end will come up. I'm pushing myself back over the rear end, and then I'll tap the rear brake a little bit or just barely touch it, just to kind of, help stabilize it there, and then start leaning in and trailing off. But there's a lot of I asked this question not for myself primarily, but more because it's one of those hot topics that everybody has an opinion on, and nobody knows what's right or what's wrong.
Yeah, and I'm not saying it's wrong to use it. I'm just saying it's wrong when
it's more of an advanced level.
So much more important. There's so much more important stuff to be putting your concentration on, and you can do so well without it. But once you're so confident in your braking and everything else that you're doing, that you have attention left over to worry about your rear brake, it's a great little tool for tightening up arcs and stuff like that, settling the rear. I would use the rear brake in the rain. I'd drag a little, throw a little 10% on that pedal there when I'm coming up to a corner in the rain.
Well, and maybe that's where I gained a lot of confidence to where I don't even think about it, is because it rains so much here and I ride my V4 in the rain.
Yeah.
And the last thing I want to do is put myself in a situation. Go ahead.
When I rode on the street, I used my rear brake all the time. I was a huge rear brake user on the street. But when I rode on the street and rode on the track, and when I was on the track, I never used the rear brake. And when I was on the street, I used it all the time. I mean, I always, you've got to use the rear brake on the street. It just makes everything smoother. And, parking lots, doing tight turns in parking lots and stuff, you got to use it. But track mode, I just say, no rear brake. My right foot, the ball of my foot goes on that foot peg and it doesn't move for the whole race. It just stays right there. Unless I hit the grass. If I'm in the grass, it's all rear brake.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I know. I was just curious, like I said, because it is one of those hot topics on the internet. And so I kind of wanted to throw that in there.
I see
your opinion.
I see it.
But it is fun to go there and tease the internet a little bit, you
Sure.
know. But all right. So do you have any final thoughts or anything you want to say?
Yeah, I just want to talk, and I know you're West Coast based, so this is probably
Mhm.
going out to an audience that really doesn't care. But I do have two great schools coming up in May, and one of them is almost anybody that's on the East Coast that's looking to get their license. It's my last two schools before the summer break. I don't do any schools over the summer because I'm too busy racing, so we won't have another school till September. But I have one on May 8th at Roebling, which is with the Wild Ones. It's a motorcycle group based in Charleston. They try their mission statement is to get street riders on the track where it's safe, to kind of rescue the squids from the inevitable destruction that happens from riding too fast on the street, and get them all into track days. And they did it a couple years just a couple times on their own, and this year they've hired me to do a school as well, and we actually have 16 signed up for that one, so there's only 4
Oh,
spots
nice.
left. But look up the Wild Ones on Facebook. Wild Ones Charleston would, if you're interested in that, it's going to be fun. It's the same price as my normal school is $550, and it's going to be the same curriculum and all that. Just the only difference is I'm subcontracting for them instead of doing it myself. And then the really exciting news is that for the first time ever, I've actually booked the track all by myself, not partnering with a track day
Oh,
group.
congratulations.
Yeah, May 29th, back at Roebling Road again. It's near Savannah. This is the Friday before the Wira weekend there, so it's really a good one for take the school on Friday and go race on Saturday. This is, since I'm not partnering with a track day group, I have the entire track to myself all day long. None of this 15-minute session stuff. We're going to just, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to move a big chunk of the teaching from the classroom right out to the track. So instead of me going to the track map and drawing on the chalkboard, drawing turn 3 and showing with the dotted line what the best arc is and all this stuff, we're just going to ride out to turn 3 and stop and take our helmets off and talk about turn 3.
Let's
And
take
then we're going to
lunch
put our
over
helmets
there.
on, ride up to turn 4, take our helmets off. And so we're not going to do a track tour. The entire day is going to be a track tour. We're going to do some funky drills, some cool stuff, and it's probably going to have 40 to 50% more on track riding than a regular school. Because it's not with a track day, I do have to charge more. That one's $650. But that's on May 29th at Roebling Road, and you can just message
Yeah, I
me.
put it in the comments section. I
Yeah,
would put those in there.
Yeah, for that one, just sign up through me directly. Just reach out to me on Facebook or whatever. We've got I've got 5 signed up, so we got 15 spots left for that one. But that's going to be an epic event, and hopefully that'll turn into something we're going to do every year. We'll have, because I believe that turns into a legacy date. So if I can get that date every year, that'll just be our special school that we'll do every year with in that format. But I'm really excited
Okay.
about that one. It should be a lot of fun.
Where can
But other than
everybody
that,
find
yeah,
you?
I'm good to go. Facebook, my phone is. Can we see?
Oh, here.
Hold
Let
on.
me do this. Let me do this. Here, I'll just do this. There we go. Right
For
there.
a good lap time. For a good lap
All right,
time,
yeah.
call 919-345-1778.
All right,
Or
hold
you
on.
can email me at Mark Morrow Racing.
This bathroom stall.
Yeah.
Oh, 778.
There was alcohol
Let's
involved with
go.
coming up with that, but that was all me. We were all like, we need a good slogan, good Logan. And I was like, I got a good one. So like the whole
I
the
love it.
the graffiti aspect, Yeah, that's always been my little sticky thing. It's on the back of my trailer, and I was like, man, I'm riding around the highway with my phone, my actual personal cell number on the back of my
Somebody's gonna
trailer.
send you a very
Like, it's
suspicious
sort of
text
slowed me down a
message.
little. Yeah. Yeah. So far, that's not happened, but
That's good.
I know
That's
it's coming
good.
now.
Just
Ask
don't leave
for
your
it,
camera
so.
laying around anywhere. um.
Ooh.
So what? So I
No.
do got a question. So if anybody's traveling out of town and say they can't bring their bike, do you have loaner bikes, and how much do you charge for them?
I do officially. I do not. It's it's something we've discussed and we're very interested to do, but I am just I am small potatoes. It's
Yeah.
just don't have the it's the finances. The only way to do that. See a VIR. The only way to do that and not put yourself at risk of being sued is to make each rental bike its own separate LLC, um, for a good lap time. So it's I'd like to do it at some point, and I have accumulate. My wife likes to give me a hard time about how many motorcycles there are around the place. There's a few, so it it wouldn't be bad that if I could start turning a couple of them into money generators instead of just selfish hobby toys. But
Yeah.
at this point in time, I cannot offer that service. I'd like to, though, but visiting friends from the West Coast, on the other hand, we could work something out.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of bike trades. Like, man, I'd love to go back. I've raced on the West Coast before, but I never got to race at the Ridge. So something like, oh, you want to come spend a weekend? I'll hook you up with a bike to ride for a weekend, and you do
Yeah.
the same for me when I come out there.
Well, yeah, I
I
know.
love things
I
like
got
that.
two. I got
but
two
it's-
V4s. I got my
Every-
Panigale.
doesn't
I got my
everybody?
Street Fighter. I mean, my
Yeah.
my
So if
my
you're ever
patio
interested in
right
that,
now. Yeah, no, definitely. My patio right now, it's stacked full of number of Ducatis, and my daughter's like, I don't have any room to play. We got all these these motorcycles.
You have Ducatis to play with. You can just play
Yeah.
with the Ducatis. Don't touch them.
She's got a little
Yeah,
Aprilia right now.
Oh, there we go.
She was out riding out on the easement.
So-
Yeah. But yeah, no, so
someday I do want to offer rentals, but just not now.
yeah. And I will definitely have to see if I can't plan a time to come out over there, because I would love to take your school and do a video documentary of it, because that would be a lot of fun. Be
Totally.
a lot of fun. But all right, well, we're gonna go ahead and wrap this up. If you guys are interested in attending Mark's school, hit him up 919-345-1778 for a good lap time. And his banner just fell. It was almost like that.
I think
was
there's a cat.
planned.
I
But
think there's a cat involved. Technical difficulties.
yeah,
technical-
but the Mark Morrow Road Racing School out there on the East Coast, check him out. Probably the best prices, because over here on the West Coast, you're looking at around $2,000 to attend the schools out here. But if you're on the East Coast, check him out. If you're traveling, check him out. We will promote his school all the time. If you are watching over here on the West Coast, we have got a track day coming up with Too Fast and Wimra on the 17th. And then we're racing round 1 of Wimra is on the 18th through the 19th. I'm going to be there. I can't say that I'm going to win. Oh, I'm so excited. I'm brimming with anticipation and excitement. But if you want to come check that out, it is free for spectators to come out and watch the races. If you want to attend the track day, check out Too Fast online. It's Too Fast track days, and I'll be there. I'll be getting my racing license that Friday. How I can compete this year. And if you wanna come by, say hi, go ahead. I've got my race number is 950. Got my little paddock card. I'll have my bike over there so everybody can come and check it out. Point out all the little imperfections with my Ducati and how I jixerized it. And then yeah. So until next time, we will catch you.